Hi everyone, welcome to The Fog and the Fury. This is the last of our initial podcast series, episode 6, where we all come together as your podcast hosts and have a bit of a discussion about what we've learned from this process, both from speaking with the specialists, the doctors, the researchers, and those with lived experience, and through research and kind of different rabbit holes that we've gone down through the course of this project. It has been such a pleasure working with these women from all over the world to bring this information to you and to equip you to understand your brain more and to move forwards with your life in the power of what this stage can be for us. My name's Lisa Allen, and I'm based in Wellington, New Zealand. I am a coach, a facilitator, and I'm really fascinated by how our systems, both internally and externally, all interact to enable us to be our very best in this world. And I'll now pass you to my colleague, Sakina, who's joining us today.
Hi everyone, I'm Sakina Hussain. I'm from Toronto. I'm a coach, a neuroscience coach, and a positive psychology coach at Sage Brain and Behavior. And now I pass it on to Denise.
I'm Denise Medved, and I am in Hendersonville, North Carolina, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I'm the CEO and founder of the Ageless Grace Brain Health Program, which is being taught in 50 U.S. states and 35 other countries to help people come to a better understanding of their brain and how it works. And I pass this off to Simone.
Thanks, Denise. Hi, everyone. I'm Simone Outeridge, and I'm based on the Gold Coast in Australia. I'm an organisational development specialist and executive coach using positive psychology principles. And I work with organisations, large and small, to help them create a great place to work. And now I'm passing off to Tara.
Thanks, Simone. Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Blanchie. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. We've finally got some sunshine today, which makes us all extremely happy. I am an executive and leadership coach. I also work in small to large organisations with individuals and teams. I'm fascinated by neuroscience. This has been an incredible journey, and we're all really excited to share some of the outtakes that we've got from this process. I'll take you quickly through the agenda, if that's all right, ladies, unless anyone wants to. No? Okay, good. We've basically distilled our learnings down to 5 key topics. I'll take you through them and then we'll get into some of the detail. So we've looked at management of ADHD and menopause through medication. We've also explored outsourcing executive functions, so relying on external processes to manage your executive function. Finding balance through movement, connection, and creativity. Finding balance through hormones and neurotransmitters, and understanding you. So doing a bit of a deep dive into self-reflection to get to the heart of what you're experiencing at this point in time. What we might do now is actually throw to Denise, because she had the first podcast episode. And in that, Denise, you discussed a little bit with Sandra Coy about medication.
Yes, Dr. Sandra Coy has done leading research in ADHD and in menopause, and she also did a great research study on things that could help both of those with sleep disorders, for example. So one of the things she studied was melatonin, and in the US, you can get melatonin in the pharmacy, and it's almost always 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams. And she said right away, way too much. That's an intense dose. We did research and found out that a half of a milligram to a full milligram was the best way to get external all-night sleep. And I said, okay, that's fascinating. So I had to special order, something that was less than 5 milligrams. I got it. And I've been doing it since the podcast, which was in August, prepared for September, and I am sleeping like a baby. I have both ADHD diagnosis, and of course, I'm postmenopausal, and I have sleep issues, or I did have sleep issues. So half a milligram to a full milligram can really make a difference in your sleep patterns. The other thing that was key was she said most people take melatonin when they think they're like wide awake and they're not going to be able to sleep. She said, no. Train your brain. She said, take it at 10 o'clock every night, whether you feel wide awake or sleepy, every single night, 0.5 milligram to 1 milligram of melatonin. And then your brain is starting getting used to this pattern, and you will start sleeping really well. And that's what's happened for me. Amazing, actually. So the other thing she said something that made me think about this. She didn't do this research, but they've also done research on saffron. And it turns out that saffron, 30 milligrams twice a day, can help with ADHD, focus, anxiety, monkey mind, moving around, and also, interestingly enough, with menopause, same kind of thing, foggy brain, and Alzheimer's. Fascinating that they have done studies and found out that saffron is beneficial to people with Alzheimer's. So thank you, Dr. Sandra Coy. And you can find her all over the internet if you want to find more information about her research on ADHD and menopause.
Yeah, it makes me think, Denise, about some of the reading I've done about how research is done on medication historically. And it's relatively recent that women have been included in studies, and that there's been realization that actually often the doses are based on what a man needs and not what a woman needs, and not taking into account how our hormones and things interact with the efficacy of medication. So I wonder, I don't know, but it's really interesting, some of this information that kind of potentially has maybe misinformed doses for women. So it's exciting to see people doing specific research looking at the impacts on women.
She mentioned that, Dr. Sandra Coy said that almost all the research historically has been done on boys or men, but mostly boys, because that's where ADHD, behavior symptoms that could be ADHD-like originate. And she said one of the reasons that women have been excluded is the very fact that we have a menstrual cycle, we have perimenopause, we have menopause, we have postmenopause. So to get us all at some level where we're similar at the same time is not that easy, and it's a huge lack. She said it's an epidemic that there's not enough research on women and what's affecting us in our daily lives.
In
So
fact,
we're in this
Denise, Denise, I remember she made a wonderful reflection on if men were to be experiencing what women were experiencing, what would it be called? Can't remember.
She said the whole world would be a different place.
Fire.
Yeah. And
I found that conversation.
complicated anyway. Oh, sorry, Tara.
You go.
You go.
The other thing I found interesting, and that was sort of springboarded off your conversation with Dr. Coy, was, and I know it's slightly outside the scope of what we're discussing today, but the research and the that's going into the menstrual cycle for girls with ADHD, and potentially adapting the pill to a girl's unique menstrual cycle to help manage some of the symptoms of ADHD.
Oh my God, the possibilities are so great, with personalized health. Simone.
Wouldn't it be amazing, if we could go back and have that research? Oh, well.
Yeah.
I think it was Lisa who said also that sometimes we don't know what's going on. We just know that we're out of sync or out of kilter. Like, what's going on with me? Am I losing my mind? Why am I losing my memory? Like, what's happening to me? I can't think clearly. And yes, could it be ADHD? Could it be menopause? Could it be all the things that we all have in our lives? No offense to men, but women are the jugglers. We're the ones that juggle 10 or 15 different things. So it could just be our life. Our life could just be very busy. Or Lisa used the word tangle. It could be just a tangle of all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Picking up on you said about sleep, I think it's quite I find it quite fascinating because, when we look at the sleep research and the things that we should be doing, and like you said, Denise, take your medication at the same time every night, even if you're tired or not. it reminds me of like when we have babies, we get told to have a sleep routine for the babies, but we seem to forget that actually as adults, we still need a sleep routine and
Yes.
train our brain to say, oh, it's time to go to sleep and go to bed. So, we need to be doing that ourselves as well, even though we're grown adults. It's still helpful.
Yes, Dr. Coy mentioned that too. She said maybe an hour before you're going to take your melatonin, you say, okay, all screens are gone. I'm going to have a cup of tea that's herbal. I'm going to wash my face. I'm going to, whatever, a little routine so that the brain says, we're getting ready to go to sleep. Let's
Yeah.
slow down.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, great
Is
discussion.
that a
Shall we?
nice segue into the use of tools to outsource executive functioning? You made me think then I would never in a million years remember to take it at the same time every night. But I kind of was like, this is where some of the amazing alarm systems kick it.
Totally. Shall we talk about that now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outsourcing of our executive functioning. Who's talking about that?
Sakina, you had some really nice ideas about ways to remind us of what we need to be reminded of.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's we and Dr. Domit, and by the way, she's amazing and full of information. Like my interview could have gone for hours with her, but unfortunately, we were just so short of time. But she was basically talking about how ADHD brains love, visibility and visible systems, and she talked about using alarms and phone reminders or visual cues, just to kind of take the pressure off of the working memory. Well, like how in my coaching, I call this outsourcing your executive functions. And yeah, I really think it helps. Whether I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but honest to God, the alarms, the sticky notes all over the place kind of keeps me in check.
Interesting, Sakina. My desktop or my screen, if you like, looks like a chrysanthemum. There are that many post-it notes. I suspect I might be keeping 3M in business. That was definitely something in my conversation with Professor Caroline Gervich, and she actually had a fantastically helpful fact sheet that followed on from that. The practical tips that she mentioned were enormously helpful. And I also think from the angle in my coaching work, quite often I manage or talk through these issues with people who are managing people and women, menopausal women with ADHD. One thing she said to me, which really stood out, is as a manager of someone experiencing this, it's really important you don't bombard them with verbal instruction. Take the time to write it down. Take the time to talk through the key sort of principles that you'd like to achieve with them so that they can then convert that into whatever format of note-taking works for them. So I think it's also interesting to bring in the angle of people helping women with ADHD and menopause.
Yeah, that's great advice. I am older than in years than many of the hosts on this podcast. And so when I first was diagnosed with ADHD as a very young woman, I there were no smartphones, and there were no there was an alarm clock. You could set your alarm clock. So for a while, I had like alarm clocks all over the house, and that works too. But then my doctor, who was an ADHD specialist, said there's a watch that you can order and it can do up to 12 alarms a day. And it was so big, but I was thrilled to have it. So today, your smartphone can do all of that. It's a wonderful tool for people with ADHD or foggy brain, from menopause, whatever it might be, overload from life, because you can set alarms, you can set reminders, you can set different sounds for different things. I mean, it's a miraculous tool for people who may be having the collision of ADHD and menopause, for example. So don't underestimate the power of your phone. Now, what's interesting is in order to program your phone. You only really have to do it once or twice for recurring events, but you have to hyper focus. You have to really say, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to give myself a certain amount of time, and I'm going to key in all these things and have it on repeat every Thursday at 2 o'clock or whatever. So that's a good practice and skill set too, which works both for menopause, ADHD, or the overlap.
Yeah, and I like how you talked about kind of, is it menopause? Is it ADHD? Is it life? And certainly, do we really need to untangle that all of the time? Like, is it possible to untangle it? What I've taken away from this is the huge amount of complexity there is in our brain, the huge number of systems that are simultaneously working that we don't understand. And I think where I've gotten to with my personal journey is that it matters so much for me. What it is understanding my own brain and how my own brain is working at this point in my life, and having a suite of different strategies that I can employ and take at this time and apply to my world to support me with wherever that is, and to know that it's very possible that that suite is going to change as well over time. And when I was speaking with Dr. Lily, she was talking about a conversations she has with clients, her brain discovery program. And it's not about fixing your brain. It's not about your brain being broken. It's about understanding it and working with it. And she talked a bit about dual diagnosis, how there's often a dual diagnosis between ADHD and autism, dyslexia. It's really different for every single individual. And that's another takeaway for me, has been that while there's studies that happen across populations, actually there's shifts within our own individual biology, biochemistry, and world experiences that all impact on how our brain operates. So knowing ourselves and having some baselines, A, to operate from, and B, to help us understand that movement over time and to work with our healthcare providers as well, because it can be on us to have that information and take it to them. And a friend of mine in a completely different kind of world the other day was saying how she'd been given a whole lot of tests from her doctor around stuff for females. Everything came at the low end of normal. What she noticed this, her doctor said, no, everything's totally cool. When she took she took it upon herself to take all of her results and to chart them. And they saw that everything was low currently, and she charted where she could her historic results. And when the doctor looked at that, they went, oh, actually, but she had to take it upon herself to show that. So it's really interesting, particularly given we know that historically doctors haven't been trained through no fault of their own to look at these things in women. Traditionally, it's just been our hormones are about our reproductive bits. And then there's all the negative stuff, rather than actually going, this is my normal, this is my journey. And now let's look at it from this perspective. So it's about supporting them to support us as well. And hopefully we can support our younger women to do this and to get some baselines so that they can start to know their own process through life. Because we are here as Gen X women going, whoa, I'm just learning about this stuff. So hey, this is a super cool way about how we can build on all of those women that came before us to really equip the young women of today and those who are slightly younger than us. It's an exciting opportunity.
I love that,
Lisa. It is.
You used a wonderful expression when we were planning this podcast, and I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something along the lines of, make your own owner-operator manual. You are the master of your own, or the mistress well-being, or the much prefer mistress, much better. But I love your invitation, which that's how I take it, an invitation to be curious about yourself and not feel like we all suffer from this human condition of a need to make sense and to categorize everything. And maybe that's something we need to abandon, with joy in our later life. And absolutely. But it's fascinating. That was another thing that came up with Professor Gurvich, was there's no such thing as a late diagnosis of ADHD. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It is all about you and whatever tools you use or you employ to make your life just that bit easier. So yeah, I love that, Lisa. Thanks for expressing that so well.
Yeah.
And I can't take ownership of the owner-operator manual. I actually, so as all our listeners will know, we all met doing Dr. Sarah Mackay. Oh my gosh, Sarah,
Mackay.
sorry.
Mackay.
Mackay, I always say Dr. Sarah Mackay's Neuroscience Coaching Network program. And she refers to herself as, in the Mel Robbins podcast, actually, as being an owner-operator of her own body. And so so much of this is about giving ourselves permission to be in our bodies, to be aware and to take note. And I don't know, as women, we typically allow ourselves that because we're always focused on others. And one thing that I took from, I can't remember which of our speakers, I think it was Dr. Paula Haid actually, was that we spend so much of our lives focusing on others that we kind of can sometimes forget who we are, and actually to be present in our bodies and to notice and to listen to that and to advocate for that. And to me, that's been something that's really hit home, that it's not selfish. It actually enables us to be stronger. And for me, it links into some of the things around, if we're not looking after our brains, I've always thought of our heart being our most important organ, but no, to me, our brain is so important, and incidences of Alzheimer's is much higher in women than men. There's starting to be some research in this area. Dr. Lisa Mosconi's done some great research in this space. So how do we look after this wonderful organ and know it so that we can be your best for ourselves and therefore be our best and our healthiest right through the end of our life? Because there's a difference between lifespan and brain span. And is it brain span? I can't remember the exact terminology, but we want them both to be the same, because often they're not. There's a gap because where our brain starts to decline, but our physical life continues. How do we make sure or take responsibility for those two to travel in unison as much as we can?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really great segue into our next section of, you know, how do we keep our owner-operator manual, you know, our bodies and our brains really functioning well and being healthy through, you know, movement, connection, nutrition, and those types of things.
If I might add, with my conversation with Dr. Domet, we kind of both agree that, you know, not only we need all of these other things, but we also need a good support system. And we need to advocate and educate. It's not just advocating for ourselves, but we need to educate our partners, our sons, our bosses, you know, our managers. You know, we don't need to power through this phase ourselves. And, you know, she was basically indicating towards menopause, but then it was like creating that system so that, you know, everybody else knows, and then we have a better functioning, you know, support system, which I kind of really appreciated, because there's not a lot of people out there who know anything about anything, to be honest.
When we first started this podcast, we were saying, look how influenced everything is by social media, for example. You know, it's confusing. You go on Facebook or any of the social media, and you're bombarded by, oh, take this pill and it'll help your memory. Oh, take this, it'll get rid of brain fog. Oh, take this, it'll make easy menopause. And it's confusing. How much is that real? How much of it has really been researched? How much of it is marketing? So that's a confusing thing too. Not only do you have to advocate for yourself, but you sort of have to research for yourself. And yes, you can talk to your doctor. And Dr. Paula Haid, that Simone interviewed, had some wonderful things to say. You can tell us more about the things that she said, but you also have to listen to your body, and nobody knows your body like you. Nobody does. Your best friend doesn't know it. Your spouse or partner doesn't know it. You know your body. You know your brain. You know when you feel confused or anxious, what triggers that. So knowing yourself, but also doing some research, which again is easier than it's ever been before, and look at reliable sources. Look at science-based information. Don't look at advertisements or articles. And if it is an article, look at articles that come from places like Harvard Medical School and Mayo Clinic, and places that are really valid. Pay attention to where you're getting your information about yourself.
And I think it's also important to remember that when I was doing my master's degree, one of our professors said to us that science is never proven. And that means, so I think sometimes we also rely a bit too heavily on this is what this paper says, ipso facto type of thing. And I think we need to be okay with the fact that sometimes these things change, and
Yes.
and that maybe it's okay for this group of women, but they then discover later on and it's not okay for another group of women. So I think we have to be also fluid with what we're accepting as information, because science is changing all the time. Like it's never proven. There's always things that are changing around, and having a bit of critical thinking too, like thinking to yourself, oh, what's going on here? And I hope that people are a little bit more aware of the marketing and the things that look amazing on social media. And at the same time, some social media can be helpful for people,
Yes.
to help you feel like you are not alone. Someone might suggest something that you've not thought of, and you think, oh, okay, I'm going to try that, and it works really well for you. So I think more than ever, we need to engage critical thinking and have some discernment over, what we accept to be true and not true.
That's a really good point, because
Mhm.
in my field, working with brain health, especially with older adults, but even with children as well, there is a saying, and it was said by Dr. Sarah Mackay. She said, neuroscience today is like a field of astrophysics in the 17th century. They
Mm.
had all these facts, they knew all these things, they understood how the world worked, the world of astrophysics. Well, guess what? It was all wrong. Now we know that. And when I
Mhm.
first started doing research on how can we change the brain, literally make a difference in our central nervous system, and change our brain for the better, the word neuroplasticity wasn't on the internet. Now there's millions of studies that's the ability to change our brain and central nervous system, especially through movement, because that's what the brain is really in the body to control. So it's interesting that you brought that up. It's very important to know that things do change. New things are discovered all the time. Most of you know that the original information about cognitive decline was, oh, if you do crossword puzzles and
Yes.
word games, and if you take courses, your brain's going to stay healthy. Wrong. It's not true. And now it's been proven by thousands of studies that that is not true, because the brain has 5 primary functions that it does continuously. And it's a little like brushing your teeth. If you only brush your front teeth for years, guess what? You're going to have tooth decay. If you only work crossword puzzles or play cards or play a musical instrument, the rest of your brain is going to decline. You need to work the entire brain. Not hard, easy, but you need to make sure that your whole brain is being addressed. And of course, the brain produces proteins, chemicals, it produces hormones. It regulates when we blink our eyes, when we swallow, when our heart beats, vagus nerve. It's fascinating to know that this is like a magnificent computer processing unit, right? That is telling our body everything, including it regulates emotions. Fascinating.
Yeah. And so
Isn't it
you're,
funny?
Lacey, you go.
Actually, I'm going to segue completely off track here, but I heard that
Well, before
I
you
was
do that, then I'm just going to say something. So to keep us on track,
yes,
sorry, Lisa, is that
thank you.
you were talking about your like I think in terms of movement and being healthy and nutrition and that type of thing, there are some givens that we know are good for us, like breathing and taking time to be still and nourishing our bodies with good things. And Lisa, you said you thought that, you know, the heart was the most important organ, and now you're thinking the brain. And now there's also a lot of research around actually that our gut is like another brain.
True.
It produces serotonin and all these other types of things. So, you know, what we feed into the system, so, you know, like I guess the petrol we put in our motor, it really does affect the way that we operate. So, you know, if you put diesel in a petrol car, there's diabolical consequences with that. And it's the same sort of thing. If we keep giving ourselves, you know, crappy food and alcohol and too much sugar and all this kind of stuff, then it, you know, it has diabolical consequences on us, and also makes the challenges that we've got sometimes exacerbated with ADHD and menopause and that type of thing. So I think it's I love that owner operator manual, even though it wasn't yours, Lisa. I think you could probably, you know,
We're going to
just
attach ourselves to it. Yeah.
take it for this podcast. It's really thinking about where we do advocate for ourselves, and, you know, when we're looking at that circle of control, circle of, you know, concern model from Stephen Covey, that circle of control is what we have control over, you know, how we move, what we eat, you know, the things that we put into our system, and how we you know, service our, that sounds wrong actually, but, you know, how we take care of ourselves, we have control over that.
And how we advocate for ourselves.
Sorry, I was thinking about, I hadn't kind of appreciated the fact of the very close link between hormones and metabolics. Our metabolic system, and thinking about the brain as part of that metabolic system as well. And this is something that I have just started exploring a little bit more deeply as a result of this. So that kind of, our brain is one of the primary sources of energy that we put into our body. And I know for me during this menopause period, the energy is, you know, sometimes you're just wasted, right? You're really tired. So how do you manage your energy through different phases of life as well? And for a woman, because our hormones are shifting constantly, but particularly when we're going through huge kind of transformative phases where the brain is going through a genuinely transformative phase, which is puberty, which is pregnancy, which is menopause. So there's kind of, and for some women that happens many times because they get pregnant quite a few times. So this brain energy, and as part of our metabolic system, and then how that then links with our physical metabolic system, our bone health, our ability to build and retain muscle, our ability to process different things. I know for me, for example, I used to be able to process wine exceptionally well. Now I can't even, I haven't been able to drink it for a few years because my body just can't seem to deal with it anymore. And I never kind of, I was lucky enough to recognize that every time I had a glass, I had a terrible night's sleep, way worse than usual. So I stopped drinking it. But this process of creating this podcast with you all has helped me to say, oh, that's a metabolic impact, I think, potentially. So just all the stuff that I have never attributed necessarily to hormones before in such an overt way that I'm thinking maybe. And as you say, I don't know that the science is there to tell me that necessarily yet, but this is where some of the citizen science, where women sharing their experiences, and I know that there is one of our guests, and I can't think which one it was, has had, or maybe it was another scientist in this space, has invited women to be part of studies. So yeah, there's some quite cool stuff where we as women can start to potentially escalate the pace of research by participating.
Lisa, that's a great reflection, and it really, the thing that struck me through this course was not only what you just mentioned there, the link with the metabolism, but also the link to that extended further into the emotional realm. I mean, extraordinary. I just felt so ignorant, actually, given how much we've learned about the role of estrogen and the impact of estrogen on dopamine, cortisol, as Sakina has been talking about. There's just so many impacts around there. Simone, sorry, we're probably going to go there with the agenda next. But yeah, I found that to be absolutely extraordinary, and the ways in which we can bolster our dopamine, knowing that ADHD is a dopamine impacted condition, for want of a better word, how we can sort of not I don't want to say falsely, but how we can bring about that feeling of a dopamine hit in ways that actually serve us rather than
and
drive
that
us to me to a
increase that
screeching halt for the
and
wrong
increase that
reasons.
baseline rather than being, go onto social media and get a hit that
Yes.
actually negatively
Use
impacts
it in a
your
productive
overall dopamine levels rather than positively impacting it.
Fascinating.
Sakina actually mentioned this, and I'll turn it over to you, Sakina, after this, but one of the ways that you can make a difference in your dopamine levels, your estrogen levels, your emotional regulation is exercise, movement, dance, walking, being in nature, meditating, breathing, all of those things. And it's kind of a dirty word because a lot of us have been failures at an exercise program or being part of some class that we started to take and we dropped out or whatever it would be. But there is tons of research because my program, Ageless Grace Brain Health, is based on physical movement and the way it affects the brain. So there's tons of research on it doesn't take nearly as hard, intense of a workout. It doesn't take nearly as much time as everybody likes to tell us. The gym likes to tell us you should do this 3 to 5 times a week. Well, the reality is even 10 minutes a day of concentrated focus exercise movement, even seated, can make a big difference in the way your brain is producing hormones, chemicals, proteins, etc. And so making movement, exercise, dance, what appeals to you is a wonderful thing to do because ideally it's something you enjoy and something you like. And the truth is, most people say like, "Oh God, I hate to go to the gym, but I have to go." But that's not going to be sustainable. It has to be something where you say, "Gee, I love going on walks in this park," or "Gee, I love just getting down on the floor and like rolling around and stretching my legs and arms," or "I like being able to."
Gardening,
Yep,
you're lifting stuff, you're getting
it's
up
the
and down.
best. It's
It's
the
true.
best. Dancing is one of the best things you can do for your body and for your brain and for your hormones and emotions. It releases all kinds of wonderful, fabulous things that we all need. And you had talked about Sakina, so tell us more about what you think about, these kinds of movement things.
Honestly, Denise, I have a question based on what you just said. We women are so overwhelmed, overworked, and doing millions of things at one time. How many of us go, yay, I want to go to the gym? Be honest with me.
I do.
I kind of
Okay,
like it.
I
Simone, you're one in a
aspire to get
million.
like that.
But I do like it, like Simone says. But on the other hand, I'm busy. Like, then I start feeling guilty, like, oh, I promised myself I'd go Monday, but I didn't go. Oh, I only got to do 30 minutes instead of 45 or whatever it is. So we need to know that you can do things at home. You don't have to always go somewhere to be able to move, exercise, dance, put on some music. You know that saying, dance like nobody's watching? Well, put on your favorite music in your living room or your bedroom and just dance for a while. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
I
I was doing that this morning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
I
to
will
your
bring
point,
in,
sorry,
I will bring
you know,
in positive psychology here.
Mm.
So, we always talk about in my group that, you need to kind of get into the habit of doing that feels a little uncomfortable. And going to gym is one of those things. It's like, you don't want to go, you're kind of making excuses, and we all do that, and just we don't want to take that challenge. We don't want to step into that unknown or that uncomfortable part of things. But if you kind of train your brain, again going back to neuroscience, is telling yourselves that, what's missing, or why am I uncomfortable? You need to speak to yourself. You need to ask those questions. Why am I so uncomfortable going to the gym? Or, how can I make it interesting? Or try to bring about that positivity in it so that, you're more encouraged to go out and actually do stuff. Even going for a walk, like honestly speaking, I'm like the worst when it comes to these things. I'm like, I've gone up the stairs like 20 times. I think that's enough of my exercise.
Well, you can even
Um,
do the stairs things on your walk, right? So I've got some stairs on my walk that sometimes I think, okay, I'm going to run up those stairs and back down again a couple of times. So short and sharp is actually better for us at this stage of our life. And Dr. Stacey Sims is a fabulous medical doctor who specialises in women's health. Or women in exercise, particularly with high performance women. But she has some really great all science-based evidence on utilizing our bodies really well at this time of life for women, and she does things with younger women as well. So she's really worthwhile checking out. For me, Sakina, I'm terrible at going to the gym. I know doing weights is really good for me, and I know I need to be around others. So I have a friend, we have a standing appointment 2 nights a week, where we meet at 7 o'clock. Often it's 7:15, or sometimes it's even later. But we have the standing appointment, get together, do some weights, and have a chat. And our gym plays quite good music. So usually we walk and we see each other and we're like dancing it out, which people look at those two crazy old birds, but we are just loving it. We're waiting for someone to join us. It's our goal.
That's a good point that you made, that actually they've proven through tons of research that the buddy system works best to create a new habit. Now, you might create the habit and be able to do it by yourself later, but to have somewhere you say, I'm going to meet you these days or these nights, or we're going to do this, or we're going to go to work, and actually have it set up, then that starts to, again, train your brain. Like, this is what I do on Tuesday afternoons. This is what I do on Thursday mornings. And you start to get into that habit. You all know that it takes a minimum, listen to that word, a minimum of 21 days to create a new habit. So setting up something, well, now they're saying, yes, but you can create it in 21 days, but now they're saying it's more likely going to be 60 or 90 days or even more. And we're all different, just like we made the point that we're all different with our hormone fluctuations, with our emotional regulation. We're all different. We're all different about how long it takes us to create a habit. It's easier to create a habit that you look forward to, that you like.
And for me, it's social where you happen to be exercising rather than exercise where you happen to be socializing.
Well, it builds in all those things that we've identified as so important in developing the balance. And actually, just it's interesting that we're having this discussion now, because I've just missed a second call from the gym that I was going to have a look at, and I've been putting off for a couple of weeks, and she keeps on chasing me down. Can I just quickly add one point, and that's just with my coaching hat on. I was thinking while Sakina was talking, another thing that I think is really important, and we use this a lot in coaching, is visualization and trying to help the client feel the future, almost feel in advance how good it's going to make them feel, step into their future self and understand, get a bit of a taste of what it's actually going to do for them, the benefits it's going to bring. So I think it's great to do the deep dive into what are some of the resistance factors within, but also help them come and see up and out, and how can they see themselves in the future.
I just want to add one more thing. It's like, I think if we as you talked about visual effects, I think when we go to the gym or make a habit out of the 21 days, I think we should celebrate the small wins. That kind of gives that dopamine effect, and your brain likes it, your body likes it, isn't it, Simone?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yes, to your point, Sakina, I think it is having a goal, like, for what purpose do I want to do this, and what is something small that I feel like I can achieve, and it's good along the way. Because if we're doing it because we think we should, then that's going to derail us. But if we're doing it because like a funny story. So I like to go to the gym, and I like to lift heavy weights, and so perhaps I've got bigger lat muscles and whatever than a normal female might have. And the other day, my 16-year-old was teasing me about like how chunky I looked. And I said to him, well, I'm doing this for you so that when I'm old, I don't fall over and break my hip. So like that's my goal, is that I can be strong and capable in my old age. And I've got to start working on that stuff now in order to do that. So that, that's my goal. I've let go of, trying to look like Barbie, which was, my goal for many, many years. So I've let go of that. And now it's about strength. And so I'm like, if I can do that, that's great. And a lot of the other things come with it, like the connection and the social side of things. I love my gym because of the people that are there, and and the chats and connection that we have. And so yes, Sakina, your point around celebrating the small wins along the way, that gives us all those happy hormones. And I'm looking at my phone because someone said to me there's something called a daily dose. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's how do you get your daily dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And what do you do? So, going to the gym or walking or dancing with your friends or that type of thing. Yeah.
They've
Can I
also
just
proven
ask?
that just being in nature helps release all those chemicals that you just mentioned and hormones. Just being outside. We're all on screens so much for our professional life, maybe visiting our mom who lives in a different place. We're on screen so much that to just say, I'm going to take 5 minutes, I'm just going to walk outside. Maybe it's cold, maybe it's pretty, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go outside and I'm just going to notice and pay attention. And that makes a huge difference. The other thing about movement, exercise, and dance is that we think of it as we're going to do something, we're going to move. But there's another part to that, which is the being calm, being still. You can call it meditation. You can call it mindlessness. You can call it prayer. You can call it anything that you want, but it's that let's stop just a minute. And again, it doesn't have to be long. There's been this thing for years with different kinds of meditation that, 30 minutes is a good time to. I could never do 30 minutes. I'm so antsy. After 10 minutes, it makes me crazy. But guess what? I had a world famous meditation teacher look me in the face and say, so do 4 minutes. Do four
That's right.
minutes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's wonderful. And sometimes I get wound up and I get excited about things and I catch myself. I'm hurrying, my heart's beating a little fast, I'm breathing a little faster. And if I just take a minute or two and go like, okay, de-escalate, be
Mm.
still, think of
Yeah,
something. It makes a
I was
huge difference. And one thing I just had in a little meditation that was guided, and it sounds so simple, but it has been a huge for me. She said, just sit very still and quietly say out loud, isn't this wonderful?
Mm.
Isn't this wonderful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't this wonderful? That it's a positive uh, release of all those wonderful chemicals that we need. It's calming somehow, and it validates that,
Yeah.
yeah, just taking time to say that 3 times makes a difference.
doesn't
And
it?
I think that really also then takes us nicely into the next section is understanding you. Like that was, a big part of I think when I was talking to my GP, Dr. Paula Haid, is one of the biggest takeaways I took from her was, other than, like self-advocating and working with your GP to see what works, because medication doesn't work for everybody. Strategies might need to go hand in hand with medication, or, perhaps you can get some coaching, or, the importance of finding a psychologist that understands ADHD, and, a coach that understands that too, and menopause and all those kind of things. So it's really, really, I guess sometimes getting back in touch with who you are and your identity. And I've been reflecting on what she said in terms of that. And I think as women, I don't know about men because I haven't actually talked to anyone, but I know as women, we often go through phases of our life where we lose our identity, right? You have a child, you kind of lose who you were before the child, and then you go through menopause and you're losing your identity around who you were before that. And then potentially, there's an ADHD diagnosis. And it's like, I think it's a realization that like you're okay, and learning to accept yourself and love yourself and understand what it is for you that works, and that is self-fulfilling, and your own kind of prescription for things, I suppose, where like there's a really interesting researcher and professor. His name is Llewellyn Van Zyl, and he's in the positive psychology space too, and he's actually come up with some amazing like methodology to work out your own kind of personal interventions, because if you talk to him, going out into nature actually makes him anxious. He doesn't like that, so he would not do that. But other things that he likes, some people might not. So it's about working out, kind of reconnecting with yourself to work out what is it that works for me. What is going to be okay for me? What is my own prescription to help me, um, move through this period with some grace and some ease and some self-compassion and love, and trying to block out all the opinions of other people, I think is important as well.
And I think
Yes.
sometimes
What a
the
beautiful
things that have formed you that may not have actually been in your service, I think that's the other inescapable truth, is at this time in your life when you are repositioning yourself, trying to understand yourself better, and connecting back into yourself, it sometimes requires some deep work as to how you became the person that you became. And I guess, all of us would advocate for people seeking help to do that where it's necessary. Certainly a psychiatrist, psychologist to help you unpack the past, maybe a coach to help you with the future. But I think that's another thing that people go through, and they manage that to varying degrees of with varying degrees of ease.
In watching all of the interviews and episodes that we all did, I'm pretty sure that every single person that we interviewed, medical professionals, scientists, researchers, they all said how important it is to have a support system, a group, a support group, uh, a doctor, a coach, and to look for someone who specializes in what's going on with you. Is it and you may or may not know, as Lisa said, maybe a tangle. Is it menopause? Is it ADHD? Is it that I have too much going on in my life? Do I expect too much of myself? Maybe it's all of that. But to look for someone, look for someone. I'm not a coach, so I can do this commercial. These are coaches. They have a great experience and knowledge and information about ADHD and menopause, and about other things, the workplace, the way people are supported or not supported in the workplace. So find someone who specializes in what you've learned about yourself and be part of it. Ask for a little help. It's so important. And now, as things are changing, more research is being done, more and more there are online support groups for all of these things, multiple ones. So that's another important thing to do. The one thing about a support group, which is fabulous, is that you get the input from other people and you hear that my story is not so shocking. There's other people with shocking stories, but you also need someone one-on-one to talk about, as Simone has pointed out, what about me? What about my journey? What about my experience? Who am I in this situation? So I encourage everybody who's listening to reach out, do a little bit of research, and find out where can you find help? Where can you feel confident with someone and trust that they're going to sort of help you along this journey? Because there is no shame ever in asking for help. One of the things that I think most of the people we interviewed also said, your brain is not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. I don't even like that they call it neurodivergent if you have ADD or ADHD or whatever. Uh, the truth is, it just is a different system. Your brain just works differently. That's one of the first things Dr. Sandra Coy said. She said, there's nothing to be ashamed of if your brain works differently. It's just like, oh, wow, my brain works differently. Isn't that interesting? The same way we would say, oh, I'm shorter than the average person, or I have longer legs than the average person. We're just different. There's nothing bad about that. So reach out and don't be ashamed to ask for help.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And be okay with changing if the person is not the right fit for you either. I think that's,
Yes.
we sometimes get scared to challenge the authorities. And, I've spoken to people where they've gone to a GP and have said, oh, I think maybe I've got ADHD. And that GP said to them, oh, yes, it's very fashionable at the moment, isn't it? But, and so like diminishing their feelings around, like you said, is it ADHD? Who knows? But so it's okay to then that person then went and found somebody else, another GP. But that's, it's okay to say, well, you know what, I don't think we're gelling. I'm going to find somebody else.
Yes.
Even
That's,
So
as you say, even if it's not just for ADHD. I mean, I've heard of doctors sort of saying, well, what difference does it make? Would you take medication? Like kind of what we've arrived at in the sense that it doesn't really matter, but then not encouraging the person to take the step further and be a little bit curious as to what it might be. What are some of the component parts?
Yeah.
What is going on?
yeah, and I think what kind of summing that up, I'm kind of just sensing, to me, every brain is different. Every single brain is
Thank
different.
goodness.
It's about knowing our own. Yeah, exactly. And it's being in your own service, so in service of yourself. It's about giving yourself some grace. It's about accepting you are as you are, and that's okay. You don't need fixing. And there's stuff that you can experiment with and play with a little bit to figure out what works for you at this point in your life. And you've got a community, and I remember speaking with Lily, who was saying, if you're looking at things like medication, if you're looking at something, yes, you want to make sure there's really sound scientific evidence. But the great thing about the internet today is you can create community around you. Other people will try things. You can go, try it on for size. Does it fit me or not? Is it a little tight or a little loose? Or, oh, I'm really not liking that, how that feels on me. Then put it aside and pick up something else and try it. And that's been something that I've got out of this group. In particular, we wouldn't have met if we didn't have community online. And it's been such a great pleasure and privilege. And I've learned so much from each and every one of these women and felt really supported through my journey in a way that I don't think I would have been if I hadn't met them through online community. So you never know what's
back at your
coming out of
sister.
something.
Yeah. No, it's
Amazing.
been awesome for that.
yes.
Awesome.
Does anyone have
It
any
has.
final thoughts that they want to end our podcast today with?
Just
Maybe
stay
I
open and
would.
curious, and there's so much. Sorry, Sakina, I spoke over the top of you.
That's okay. Actually, Dr. Domit and I were talking about it, how support helps. Whether it be through coaching, through community, through therapy, I think support really helps you regulate your brain and rebuild. So just like Denise said, don't be ashamed to ask for help. And another point was our brains are not broken, they're just adapting. And I
Right.
think
It's
we
like doing
women
a
are
reno
very
on an
good
old
at it.
villa.
Honestly, we women are very, very good at it. We're masters at adapting.
We're
So be
fresh in the bones.
proud of who you are.
So true.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings us to a close. We could talk all night. You can probably tell that we really like each other. We became good friends in this process. But I want to mention a couple things. First of all, there is not only the Fog and the Fury podcast, and we've done the 6 episodes, basically one each week for 6 weeks, which started because October was World Menopause Month, and it was also World ADHD Month. We said, well, that's a good time to do this. But we've also agreed that we're going to continue the podcast. It's just going to be more on a pop-up basis. We want to be sure that we find someone really interesting that has some great insight, and then go to and please join the private Facebook page, which is called The Fog and the Fury. There will continue to be posts. We'll continue to put supplements, resources in there that you can use. When we come across a great research article is science-based. We're going to put it in there. And then we're going to announce on that, the Fog and the Fury private Facebook page, that, oh, there's a podcast coming out this week because Sakina or Tara or Simone or Lisa has found somebody really wonderful that we really want to share with you their insight and their knowledge. So we hope that you'll join that page. Now, the other thing I'd like to say is there were 5 more podcasts before this one. Each one of us interviewed somebody amazing, and they had great insight, and they were all a little different from each other. So if you haven't watched the other 5 podcasts, or you've only watched 1 or 2 of them, please go back. It's on Spotify, on Podcaster, but we just started uploading them to YouTube. So if you don't have a Spotify subscription, they're starting to be on YouTube. We have Tara's up there already with Dr. Caroline Gervich, and more are coming every day. We're uploading them there so everybody has access to YouTube. So we hope that you'll join us and watch more of these episodes. We hope that you'll continue to look at the Facebook page, and we hope that you know that you're not alone.
And just one thing, after that beautiful finishing moment, do let us know on that Facebook page what you'd like to hear about, because we want the people that we approach to speak to be people you want to hear from. We want this to be informed by what's important to you at this point in your journey. We'll look, we'll listen, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
Sounds great,
Thank you
Lisa.
all for being here.
Can I
Thank
put
you.
one final plug, and that's for the goddess who got us
Tara.
all together, Dr.
Yes.
Sarah Mackay. So just for people who don't know, Sarah has just put out or re-released a wonderful book called Women's Brain Health or Brain Book. She runs excellent courses. That's how we met. She's got the Neuroscience Academy. We did the Coaching Network course. She's got a Women's Brain Health course coming up. So just so rich and generous in terms of information. So another great resource.
Absolutely.
We'll probably link actually a lot of the resources.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the Facebook
Podcast.
too, yeah. So
And if you're
it's
looking for
been
Dr. Sarah Mackay, you can subscribe for free to her newsletter. She gives wonderful information every week, a lot about her brain, not meaning hers personally, but about the female brain and how it works. So that's something you can Google her. She's with the Neuroscience Academy that she founded. She also does the Neuroscience Coaching Network, as Tara said. She does a Her Brain course. It's just full of information. And before we started this podcast, we were talking that, you know what, not to sound like brain nerds, but the truth is everything goes back to the brain. Everything that we do, every move that we make, every breath that we take, it's all about our brains, and they're all. So again, you're not broken, and you're certainly not alone. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
everyone. It's been a wonderful experience, and we hope to be seeing you again soon. So make sure you send us through your suggestions and ideas.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.